There we go.
Trying to clock.
Hey guys,
How you doing, Mike?
how we doing?
Hey, trying to clock out of here, man.
Yeah.
Asked Coach Wilcox if you guys sort of had a checklist of things you wanted to accomplish this spring coming in. If so, if you have something like that, where do you feel like you guys kind of fell on the spectrum of what you want to do?
We did definitely have a checklist from an install standpoint, and we got everything really that we needed to get in this spring installed. So what we'll do now is go back, do some self-scout, make sure that to evaluate the things that we were doing, and now go back and look at completion percentages and yards per carry and all of those things. And obviously if there's a concept that we ran a bunch that we're not very good at, then it'll get scrapped. And if the things that we had success with this spring that we feel like we can build on, our guys are confident in, we'll build on those concepts.
How well do you think the guys are doing to adjusting to your subtle changes in philosophy?
I think they've done great. I think we've put a lot on them. Fernando and Chandler probably spoke on that. Just, Coach Gilbert's done a great job of really tying their feet and their eyes into every concept that we're running. And so there's been a lot on their plate from that standpoint. But, I've been very pleased with the way that everybody's handled the install. And our guys are just, we've got a hungry group of guys right now that's working at a pretty good level.
How's the competition at quarterback benefited both guys, you think?
I just think having multiple guys that are confident, multiple guys that have experience, it just every day, it just rises both of them. And so it's been fun to watch. And the cool thing is, I think, there's their best football, both of them still in front of them.
What's the biggest hurdle when you have a new team in the spring, and how did you guys do in that area?
The biggest hurdle was probably getting some of the new guys adjusted. We had a lot of turnover in the wide receiver room, so that was pretty quick, having to get those guys in here in January, go through some walkthroughs and some meetings and installs before we got on the field. So really every day at that position was just such a learning experience. You talk about a couple offensive linemen that are new, running backs that are new, so those guys, but it's great to have them in the spring because now they know how we work, they know how we practice, they know what we're doing conceptually. So it's when they come back, in the summer, they start doing some player run practices, they show up to fall camp, we should be ready to go.
Nick Morrow's name has come up quite a bit the last few days. What has he done to kind of showcase his abilities, and where do you see him growing from here?
Yeah, he had a great spring. Really, probably the surprise offensively of the spring. We've had high hopes for Nick since we recruited him and since he got here, but just how fast he's been able to develop his body to get to 300 pounds, the strength that he gained this winter, and then his ability to just compete. That's what I've been really impressed with him. He's lining up against David Reese and Xavier Carlton, two older guys that have made a lot of plays in college football. And he's holding his own, and he's fighting and scratching and clawing, and he's taking some lumps, but he's super competitive, and I think he's got a really high ceiling.
Any idea where Victor fits in when he comes back in the fall?
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. Unfortunately didn't get to see that this spring, which, I would have loved to know what I have there. But Victor's a guy that's played. He's got that length and athleticism just like Nick, so he's definitely going to give us some flexibility and some depth.
Is he strictly a right side guy, or could he swing?
No, he can play either tackle.
Okay.
Yeah.
What have you liked about the offensive installs and process, and what more do you need to see from them?
Yeah, I think just what I've liked about what we're doing is, conceptually our guys understanding what we're doing, having the answers to, because we're seeing such multitude of things from our defense. So I can't call perfect plays, right? And so we try to give our guys answers within the play. So whether it's a run read or a check or a protection check or a hot route or whatever it is, that part of it's been really good. What we need to get better at is just consistency. I think if you've come out and watched 14 practices, you see really good things. You see explosive runs, you see explosive passes, but you see the negative plays, you see some turnovers, you see some balls on the ground. So those are the consistency things that we have to get cleaned up between now and the first game, and that's how we're going to win in the fall.
Like semi-personal question. Look, with as much information as out there and with the NIL and everything, transfer portal, I think a coach could spend 25 hours a day, 8 days a week working. But at some point, you got to back off a little bit.
Right.
At what point between now and when preseason camp starts do you kind of back off a tad just to kind of recharge and see the rest of the world?
July. And somebody was asking me, one of the parents was just asking me after practice today, Coach, what are you going to do now to get you some time off? I said, I've got an official visit recruiting dinner tonight at 7 o'clock, so I'm going to go shower and go do a recruiting dinner.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to come in and do our postseason evaluations with our guys on Monday and Tuesday. We'll watch this film. Then I'm going to fly to Seattle. Then I'm going to fly to Portland. Then we're going to have another guy coming in next weekend. And, that's what I'm going to do for the next 7 days. And then I'll figure out what I'm doing for the 7 days after that. But
other than that, though, nothing.
Other than that, I don't really have, and then I've got a 6-week-old baby girl at home. I've got 2 boys running around the house that are playing baseball. So
just a day in the life.
Hey, it's just a day in the life.
15 practices in, how do you feel like you've developed as a play caller since the last time you kind of had that hat on?
Yeah, I think for me the biggest thing in calling plays is knowing your personnel and knowing what our guys do well. So that's what I was really focused on this spring, is trying to throw a lot at them, see what they can handle, and see what we're good at. If we're really good at running vertical shot routes with our outside receivers, then that's what we're going to do. If we're really good at throwing quick game and slants and RPOing, then that's what we're going to do. So as we go back and really evaluate, our efficiency from this spring, that's the things that I'm going to call as a play caller that I hope will make me a good play caller.
Chandler struggled a little bit with the turnovers late in the spring process, and he's not really known for that in his career so far. Is there anything that you're seeing that's aiding that, or is it sometimes a matter of the receiver making the wrong?
Yeah, I mean, we all see the picks. Some of them are his fault. Some of them, he's getting pressured or the ball, his hand gets hit as he's throwing it. Some of them, the receivers aren't coming back down their stem or coming back towards the quarterback as they break out of their route. So those are all the minor details, that are, obviously he's made mistakes and we've all made mistakes this spring, but that's part of growing and practicing.
What stood out to you today in the showcase?
Just seeing some young guys compete. That was fun watching those 2 young quarterbacks that haven't got a lot of burn this spring. They were out there having fun, throwing it around. Nate catching the deep ball on top of a DB's head. That was fun. So it was good to see some of those running backs get loose and see their elusiveness once they were actually live and they had to be tackled, because sometimes in practice, a hip tap is kind of where we put the ball down, and now that hip tap is a 9 or 10 yard gain, which makes our life a little bit easier on offense.
Are there any groups or maybe facets of the game that you feel better about than you did a month ago?
I feel better about every unit we have right now than I did a month ago. And that's just because, again, like I said, the work that they've put in and the mentality that our coaching staff is instilling in our players of what it looks like to be consistent day in and day out. And so that's what we're going to continue to push to them as we move forward. We're not just going to put the footballs away. We're going to meet with our guys. We get 2 hours a week, NCAA rule. So Tuesday and Thursdays from now until they go home for break, we're going to still be doing football meetings and walkthroughs and things like that. We're going to keep trying to make sure we're progressing. We're not just going to turn the video off and turn the film off and put the balls away and say, all right, we'll see you in fall camp. We got to get better.
Thank you, Mike.
All right.
Enjoy your week in July.
Oh, can't wait.
Have you decided where you're going?
We're going to go back to Texas and see the family for a little bit, and then I think we're probably just going to go try to find somewhere, on the coast down here.
Six-week-old will be in high school by then, right?
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. Thank you guys.